Well, welcome everyone. I want to welcome you here tonight to the Jackson County Board of Supervisors public hearing for the Jackson County 5-year road program. I have Don Schwenker, Ned Flagel, myself, Mike Steiner, so your county supervisors, and Todd Keeney, who is our engineer, along with Clinton County engineer. Lisa Smith with the auditor's office here is taking minutes. Has everybody signed in? Who said that?
There should be a sign out sheet outside.
We would like to have you sign in before you leave, though, if you would.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, appreciate that, just so we know who's here and we can know who to send your certificates to. Good for continuing education, wherever you're at, yeah. So we will, at this time, we will open, is there any questions for him? Otherwise, we will open the public hearing at this time. So tonight we are here again for a Jackson County 5-year road program, and they did introduction, so we are down to Todd for his presentation. Which one you want to start? I'll turn the table over to Todd.
Okay, thank you. Like Mike said, my name is Todd Kinney. I've been Clinton County engineer for about a little over 22 years. Born and raised Clinton County. I live southwest of DeWitt. I started kind of on a more of a semi interim permanent kind of basis in September of last year here in Jackson County when their current county engineer left to take another job. So I've been filling in on a semi-permanent basis, doing both since September. So just a little more background on that. The 5-year program typically is we review that at a hearing with the last several weeks with the weather and stuff and some of the aggregate road problem we've been having. The board asked that we talk about the plan that we're going to do to address their aggregate road issues. So I'm going to start with that. And then when that's done, we'll talk about any questions you have, we can go over that. And then when that's done, we'll go into the 5-year program, which is actually why we're having the hearing. So, but we'll talk about the gravel road issues first. You'll hear me repeat here. So, and I noticed this a couple of years ago, I filled in too.
Jesse, you
What?
You pulled the cord out.
I did.
We're gonna blame you anyway.
It's all right.
All right, so there it is. All right. Okay, whatever. All right. So the biggest issue, I don't know if you guys drive around much in Clinton County, but the biggest difference there is compared to the roads here is the crowd in the road. Basically, to maintain an aggregate or gravel road, you have to get the water off the road, period. If you don't, the flat road, you're gonna have poor drainage. You're gonna get potholes. That's what causes potholes, standing water. You're gonna get ruts. You're gonna get a wet subgrade and then ruts, and these are all Jackson County pictures. So the bottom line is we got to get the water off the road, period. So this whole presentation is going to talk about how we're going to do that, and then what we're going to do as far as shaping the roads and hauling additional rock and that kind of thing. How do I say this? The cross section of the road, didn't happen overnight, and it's going to take a while to fix. So just bear that in mind. And that being said, and I've driven on a lot of gravel roads, and we've gotten, a whole, bushel basket full of complaints here. Even with crowding the road, with what we've been going through as far as getting spring in January and then spring in February and then getting rain, we would still have some soft road issues. But if we could get the road to drain, it would dry out much faster and we wouldn't have the prolonged issues that we have. So that being said, I'm a big measurement and data guy. So when we get complaints or whatever, this is actually Jaden going out and we measure the crown on the road. So if there's a drainage problem, we go out, check to see, is there proper crown? Most of the time, when we go out there, I have myself in my slides here. We measure crown, usually that range from about negative crown, which means the road is lower in the center than the edge, to about 2 to 3%. I can't see that. I think that one's like 2.3%. The next picture is 1.9. Basically, that's too flat to drain properly. A paved road has 2 to 2.5%. A paved road, which has an impervious surface. So I'll go through there. So back to my main point here. The plan to address the problems is to improve drainage, period. Get the water off the road. So we're going to start with the basics. We're going to get the water out of the center of the road and drain it to the edge of the road. We're going to take it from the edge of the road and drain it to the shoulder. We're going to drain it from the shoulder and into the ditch. And a lot of spots, you guys don't have very good ditches. Sometimes the forest slope or edge of the road is higher than the road. That's fine. We're going to get the water from the middle of the road to the edge of the road to a ditch. And if that ditch is just a low spot or a little V ditch out at the edge past the shoulder, so be it. But we got to get the water out of the traveled way, out of the center of the road. And what we're going to shoot for is 4 to 6% crown in all the roads and maintain that crown. So I got these. We're going to, obviously there's going to be a lot of training involved with the grader operators, truck drivers, that kind of thing. But, this is kind of the Bible of road maintenance. Everybody's going to get one. We had the guys, I had a meeting with them last fall. What did I do with that? I got a lot of paperwork here. So we have this county blading policy. It talks about the importance of drainage, soil mechanics, that kind of thing. But it also talks about what we expect for crown. So it's going to be an expectation, and they're going to get held accountable to that. So they all got this. They all signed an acknowledgement that they have received it, and now it's just a matter of trying to go out and help them make that happen. So, so the plan is, everybody got. Hey, hold that up for people to see you do. With it, so that sheet right there is what kind of this slide talks about. We're going to pick 10 miles, roughly 10 miles, a little over in some, in every motor grader district, and we're going to reshape the road. And what I mean, and in case people ask, well, how'd you pick the 10 miles? We just started with the highest ADT roads. So the roads that get the most travel, that's what we started with. And then the plan is, the next year we grab once we get everybody trained up and everything, operating equipment, the process, how we want to do this, we should be able to go to, say, 15 or 20 miles. But the goal is to get every road in the county reshaped and a uniform amount of rock put down every 4 years. That's a systematic way to maintain the roads. I don't want to say we're going to do just like Clinton County, but we're going to make it a systematic way that we approach it. So this starts the program. This is us walking through the door, first step here. Again, it's going to take time to fix it because it took time to, get the way it is, I should say. So the steps, kind of basic steps here are, you go out to the road you picked, you mow it down as tight as you can to the shoulders. We just bought a retriever, got here this week. I got pictures of it if you want to see it, but it's like a disc gang that goes on the front of a motor grader. And basically you just chew up the side. So it discs it up, it stays on the shoulder. We'll let it lay there 3 or 4 days to get foul, the grass dies, that kind of thing. And then right before we want to re-rock it, we'll disc it up again. We'll V-pick any potholes in the road, get those cut out, any rumble strips get cut out, and then we'll bring that material onto the road, and then we'll shape that to the crown, and then we compact it. We're going to buy 2 rollers or rent. Compaction is key. So you're going to bring all this loose material. It's got fines, it's got rock, it's got all different kinds of things in it. We need to get that compacted, get the crown compacted, and then we're going to put 200 ton per mile of a 1-inch clean stone. So that has very little fines. That's going to be our base stone. That'll get compacted. And then we will put down 400 tons per mile of our regular road rock. And then that gets plated, that gets packed, and then we go to the next road. So, for instance, like the 1-inch clean has about 1 inch or 1% of fines in it. So fines would be the material that passes the 200 sieve. Okay. Our road rock that we spec, let me see here. The road rock that we spec has a 0 to 12% passing the 200. So there's a big difference between a pile of rock that's got 1% fines in it and that's got 12% fines. So where there's also a special backfill product that we use. It's the top rock size isn't that much different, but there's a little bit bigger rocks in it, and the percent fines is only around. Usually it's around like 7 6 or 7%. So that's more like what we're hauling now, because it's really a waste of time to be hauling lime out on a road in the spring, really, especially if you're trying to bridge a gap over a mud hole or something. So that's the plan for hauling rock. And I looked, you know, you hear a lot of different things, but you talk about abrasion is the how fast the rock breaks down, right? So basically how they test that is they put it in a big drum with steel balls and they spin it around and see how much fines have broken off the rock. It's abrasion. So that percent loss is what you're looking at. And we went back 5 years looking at what the average abrasion is for the rock that you guys purchase and we test, the DOT test. And your abrasion is 40.5% over the 5 years of rock that we've had tested. Clinton County's is 39.2. So your rock's a little bit softer, but not a whole bunch. And the spec we have for abrasion is 45%. So both products meet the spec, but you know, like you said, the harder the rock, the better the rock. But it's not like the rock we're buying here is not meeting spec, and it's not that much different than we've been using. So I talked about this. That's just a part of the blade policy. It talks about crown, the importance of crown. Crown is how you drain the road. I mean, that's paramount. We can't maintain a road if we can't drain it, period. This is the manual I talked about. This will be what the operators should be trained on, what they're going to be held accountable to. You know, we're gonna train as much as we can. If we need to spend more time out there, have operators come from other counties, doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we get the road shaped the way we need it. I'll say this: get a lot of helpful hints from people that say the grader should be doing this or the grader should be doing that. I'm a farm kid, grew up on a farm, raised hogs, forever finish, all field work, all that stuff. I've never sat in a motor grader seat. All right. If I got in that thing, I'd probably do more harm than good. But what I do know is what I want the road to look like when it's done. And that's in that cross section. And that's what I'm going to hold the grader operators. I've talked to, 30, 40 different grader operators, guys with 40 years experience down to 4 days. And they all have a little bit different way of how they do it. And I don't get too worked up about that, but it better look like how I want it to look like when it's done. That's it. So if the road's crowned properly, the width of the road is correct, all that stuff, and it drains properly, then it's a thumbs up, basically. So I mentioned this cross section. There's copies around here for everybody. When we go out and clean ditch, when we go out and shape roads, this is what we're shooting for. This is what guys should be having in their minds. This should be their visual picture in their mind what they're shooting for. Now that varies. We have a minimum width and a maximum width because you get a road gets a lot of heavy ag traffic or just a lot of traffic. Those roads typically end up being a little bit wider. So they'd be a little bit wider than a road that's, say, a dead end and only has 20 vehicles a day on it. So it's not a one size fits all, but that is what we're shooting for in between those limits. This one. So back in the fall, so again, I'm a numbers guy. So we got issues with, this was before we had all the recent issues. We went out and in all those spots in red, I had our sign crew guy, Bomber, go out and drill holes in the gravel road, one in each lane, and measure the rock thickness. Because I need to know how much rock we have out there. Your average thickness for those spots is 3.2 inches. That's not great. That's not terrible. But you do have 3 other spots on there. You probably can't see it where it's an inch or less. That's bad. There's probably a lot of farmers here that got more rock in their yard and they're around their machine sheds than we have on the road. So that's just a way for us to say, this is kind of reason why I kind of got to, man, we probably need to have a more systematic way of applying rock. You guys haul, I got my numbers here. I'm just going to look at the number of tons you guys haul per year. Where the heck is it? Dan, did you mess up my papers? All right.
Jesse did it.
Oh, here it is. So, in the last year, this goes by contract year. We get pricing each year. Goes from like a certain part of the year to, I think it's like, is it like March? Is it March to March?
February, the end of February to the end of February.
Yeah, so that's when I say a year, that's the year we're talking about. So that was 118,000 ton last year, 134,000 the year before, 96,000 the year before, 139,000, 111, 96. So you see there's a big variation in there. And what the past practice is, basically you'd haul spot rock where you'd see a problem. And that's, I'm not saying we're not going to haul spot rock. We will still need to do that. We'll still need to cover up, bad spots and everything. But part of that rock that we're going to haul is going to be applied at a certain rate over a certain amount of roads. So we develop a system how we're re-rocking roads. So the board has agreed, I think, to provide additional funding for that. It's just, so what the 10 miles is going to be an extra 60,000 ton of rock. So we're going to have to buy extra rock, but we're also going to be using some that's already in the budget, because some of these roads would have been getting rock anyway, in the past practice. So, all right. So here's kind of some pictures of what it's going to look like. These pictures are all from Clinton County. So, you can see there that material has already been disced up once the grass is dead. He's getting ready to bring that onto the road. This shows a picture of why is that? Do I need to admit somebody?
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that, Pat. So both sides have been disced up, getting ready to bring on the road. So this is a road that's really flat, really wide. This is in Clinton County. The sides have been disced up. There's not much of a ditch on either side, but we're still going to shape this road so we can get the water from the middle to the edge into the low area. I don't even want to call it a ditch. It's a low area off the edge of the road, basically. So this is a picture of their windrow and that material that's retrieved. So you can see he's right down on the basically getting into the subgrade there. You can kind of see where it changes from lime to dirt color. So right now, where his right set of tandem wheels are, that shoulder is actually steeper than the rest of the road. So that shoulder should have a little bit more slope than the rest of the road. Preferably, you don't want the same slope from the center of the road all the way out to the edge of the grass. You want the shoulder to be a little bit steeper, because each time he needs to go blade and keep the crown in the road, he's going to be cutting from the edge of the road to bring to the middle. And if you don't have that shoulder steeper and it's the same slope, he's going to be gouging and you're going to get a lip there, basically. Yeah, there's a lot of lips. One side of retrieved material is pulled into the road. I just need to just kind of give you an idea of what's going to look like. Here's, this is a messy one. There's a lot of material brought in the road there. We'll have signs up, but that's a lot of material. So we're building crown back in that road. And, when you got a flat road, for each percent of crown, now, depends on how wide the drive lane is. So say it's from the center of the road to the edge of the rock, it's 12 foot. To get 1% of crown, you need about 1.4 inches in the middle, right? So to get the 4, we're over 5-6 inches in the middle of the road. So if we got a flat road, we don't have enough budget to haul rock to build a 5-inch thick road. So we got to retrieve the edges of the road, lower the edges, raise the middle. That's basically what it comes down to. There's some material, and it's actually, if you do it at the right time with the right moisture, it compacts very well. So you can see rock in there, you can see lime, you can see grass a little dirt. So it's not all rock, it's not all dirt. This is a road in Clinton County. It's got a bad lip. This is I put it in there on purpose. That's not a good situation right there. So where he's cut into the shoulder, that material needs to be brought in. But you can see in there, you can see the rock sitting there. There's material to get retrieved there for sure. There's a back picture stepping away from the lip there. And this is another road that doesn't have much of a ditch. We got a lot of roads like that, but that doesn't mean we can't shape it and get the water to drain to the edge of the road, right? And we don't have time to go out and dig a 2-foot, 3-foot ditch everywhere in the county. We're still going to be doing ditch cleaning, but the task that we need to accomplish is way too big to try and say we're not going to shape a road unless we can dig a ditch. We have to be able to retrieve material, build the middle up, and rock the middle and build crown on the road. All right, so here's this is a grader operator that decided he was going to pull his shoulders in before any rock was going to get hauled. and it rained and it's a sloppy mess. This is a guy that went out and retrieved real heavy. I mean, that's a lot of material he disced up. That was a wide shoulder, and we got about 3/4 of an inch the night before. Not real smart, but you know, you live and learn. So you see that situation. What I told my guys, and what we'll talk to the Jackson County guys about is that if you're going to retrieve a bunch of material, you never, you can't predict rain, but you wouldn't want to do this right before you know there's a good chance of precipitation. But if you know say you're in a low area by a culvert or something or a waterway, just do this. Take your blade and cut a little notch, and then it'll drain. You won't have water ponding for 50 feet along the edge of the road. So there's ways around that as well. This is another, we're not gonna do this now. In this picture, you can see there's snow in the upper left corner of that ditch. We're not gonna be doing this now. This guy tried to retrieve a road, it was too early, and that's what you get. So, most likely we'll be starting sometime in May. And it all depends on how quick the roads dry out. We'll probably start sometime in May, start training, reshaping roads, hauling rock, and we probably won't finish till October. So this is just a picture I wanted to show. Like you can see it here. This guy has filled in his ditch. He calls it his yard. And we still have to get water over to the edge of the road. There's not much of a ditch there, but there's enough to keep water from the traveled part of the road. That's what we're shooting for. This is another one where I got a road condition is horrible, blah, 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 tore up her yard. Water must drain to the shoulder. It's not your yard, it's your road ditch. That's going to be a common theme. Somebody mows their ditch and it's all filled in. It's not like I'm going to go out there and try and make it look as bad as I can, but we have to get the water over to a shallow V ditch. And then once the grass grows back in, they still should be able to mow it, but we're not going to have the water running down the road so they can mow their yard, basically. These are just kind of some finished pictures. I will say this, you guys are probably used to driving on roads with minimal crown or no crown. When you drive on a road with crown, you will feel it in the seat of your pants. You will feel it pull you to the edge of the road. And they're going to ride rough. They're going to ride rough till they get a few bladings and traffic compacts it down. You'll have to slow down. It's going to be like, you probably may not have used to driving on a road with that much rock either, to tell you the truth. But once the grass grows back into the shoulders that we've retrieved, it won't look as steep. Without grass in there and you see the bare ground, you're going to think, oh man, that shoulder is steep. But once the grass grows back, it won't look that way. It's just a little bit deceiving when it's bare ground. The roads will ride rough, but give it 4 to 6 weeks and you'll be surprised how dry they are to drive on after they get rain. This is just another one. This picture's of finished product stuff. I wish all roads could look like that. Oops. Oh, I got to get back this mic. So I was telling the board, this is what we'll hear. I've heard this too. So the road rides rough as a cob. I can't drive more than 50 miles an hour. It's like driving on marbles, and it kind of is. And the road is ruined and it's unsafe. So just be aware it's going to drive rougher once we do this until it gets a time to get netted in and bladed in. So, all right, that's that. Questions on that?
No, we had a crown 30 years ago when we were on. And I'm gonna tell you something, they didn't have scare fires 30 years ago. What they done was they crowned it enough before winter hit. And they took a little off the crown every time you got ice. You got a little gravel on both sides. That scare fire don't do nothing.
Yeah.
I drive every day on the gravel.
Yeah, and that's a good point. When you got a flat road or a negative crown, even if you got a V-pit down front, it's hard to break that up because you're trying to cover it over a wide area and it's a what do you call it? It's a ununiform surface. That's the other benefit of having a crown road. When you get an ice storm like we had, you go down, you can put pressure on the middle 3 or 4 foot of that road and you're going to get rock to come up like right now.
Yep.
So that's another benefit I didn't talk about with it. It'll be a little bit easier to bear. We always tell our guys, bear rock down the middle of the road in the winter. Don't blade it off, just bare rock so people have traction down the
They
middle.
gotta have rock to blade in the middle.
Yeah.
Trying to be smart. I'm a truck driver.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you get stuck going up a hill, and I almost got stuck the other day trying to get out of that hill. There's just no run.
It's 600 tons a mile to do this project enough for us.
Yeah.
That's only, my calculations on 10 foot wide, that's only about 3 inches of rock.
Yeah, so, how do I say this? To get over all the roads
You know,
and make it financially feasible, that's what we do.
Yeah.
It will probably take a couple cycles of this, and then we'll start building the thickness up. To go say 800 to 1,000 ton, you know, we'd have to get a lot more money or pare back the miles. And I just think we want to cover, like I said, ideally, we should be doing this every 4 years. And if you do it every 4 years, you should be building or maintaining that thickness and not losing ground, basically.
because what we've been getting now is about 200 ton a mile.
I would say when you're spot rocking, you're
Yes.
probably at 150
Yeah,
or 200 ton per mile.
you know, and that's only 12 dump truck loads a mile, you know, it's about 3/4 of an inch a mile.
Yeah, so what we do is like when we go out to do our contract rocking, what we'll do is what you do is you have the grader park and you spray paint a line on the tire on the ground, okay? And then basically you have them turn, I think it's 14 wheels of the grader turn, and you make a mark and he counts that line. You just measured, you want so many feet in between, and you that little mark that you make in the edge of the road. The guys that are dumping rock, no, they gotta put their load from one mark to the next, and that's how you ensure that you're getting the correct density over on that road.
Before you were talking about the rock, the quality of the rock. Who tests the rock and when does it get tested?
So it's getting tested by the Iowa DOT, they're aggregate technicians.
So out of the quarry or when it gets dumped on the road?
So you can't test it when it gets dumped on the road. They test out of the stockpiles or as it comes off the conveyor.
It's tested by the crusher.
Yeah.
So we load out of a lot of quarries, a lot of rock. And there's a couple quarries that you guys are hauling out of, that there is hardly any lime pile there. And I was told by one of your employees that they come in and test the rock, and the minute they leave after testing it, it gets shifted. The lime does.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
I can't speak to that, but once we don't, when we test rock, it's for like when it's stone in like aggregate or in concrete or asphalt, then we would run a gradation on it, but if it's just like road rock getting hauled on the road, the DOT tests that. We don't test that.
and that's fine. I just was kind of wondering how that works, yeah.
So many tons has to get tested.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just asking a question. How much are we putting on and, you know, how it works?
Well, one thing you gotta remember is if you got water sitting in the middle of the road, we were putting limestone on it. Limestone that's wet breaks down a lot faster, gets worked down a lot more. The goal with this and the board's commitment to buying the retriever, buying the compactors, working with Todd to get his program brought to Jackson County. Is so we can dry the roads out, so the rock we put on lasts a lot longer.
Yeah,
So
so
then the next question is that you're saying about you're gonna make people responsible and liable, your road grader guys. So who's gonna be enforcing that? You?
well, ultimately it'll be me, but it'll be the lead man, it'll be the maintenance superintendent too. I mean, everybody's accountable to the standards.
Well, I just was asking what your, I guess what your plans.
We
are.
got a level with a slope meter on it, and when we go out and they're done shaping the road, it better look like that cross section, or we're gonna be out there doing it again.
That's what I wanted, because. Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we're all on the same page, because we're getting roads that are 40-some foot wide. And it just keeps getting wider, and today I seen it happen, I got pictures of it, he was winging gravel right in the ditch.
Yeah, so like, we have roads that are wide like that with flat, I'd say flat or no ditches, and the leadman, we had a meeting earlier this week to talk about this plan and that kind of thing. And what I told him is like, we're not gonna go out to where the edge of that 40 foot is and retrieve. We're gonna go out to the edge of our 28 or 30 foot, and we're gonna drop the retriever there, and we're gonna start making a V ditch right there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna do, and the thing that scares me the most is some of these roads that have a negative slope or flat, even after we retrieve them and bring in material, we may only get to about 3 or 4%. So it might take, in 3 or 4 years, we're gonna be doing this aggressively again until we get it built back to where it needs to be. And we just, I don't say you can't do it with rock, it's financially almost implausible to do it with rock.
Well, today I'll be the first to admit, I'll tell everybody, I was the one, I called in to complain, because I'll tell you why. Here we are, we're throwing our money on the road, everybody here is putting money in the gravel. And we got road graders going down the road, weighing it in the ditch. So we're trying to hold the rock on the road. We watched the dump truck put it right in the middle of the road, and then the road grader goes and blades it off the road.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming to, who's gonna, hold who accountable, and how are we gonna handle it?
Yeah, so like, if we're like for this last ice storm, once you have crown on the road, like he just said, you don't need to blade rock. You just need to bust up the ice in the middle and you'll have traction. You shouldn't have to be moving rock anywhere like this time of year. You really shouldn't.
Oh, I know, I agree totally.
Yeah.
To add on to what Kevin was saying too with the lime and the piles. You know, guys, it's just like if you're unloading shell corn in a big pile. You're gonna get all of the kernels to flow out to the outside and all of your rubbish is gonna stay in the center. It's just like this gradation on this lime and this road rock. When them guys are taking the test coming off the conveyor, the gravel's all gonna run down off the sides. And when the guys get into their inloaders and dumping the truck, when they get into the center of that pile, they're gonna be loading up almost nothing but pure lime on some of them loads. And with the 600 ton of rock per mile or whatever, you know, there's for how many years now this guy has been telling let's use more clean stone. For one thing, I'm kind of a numbers guy too. For one thing, when the county's buying road rock, there's a lot of lime in it. Well, lime holds a pile of water. So we're buying a lot of water. If we would use more clean stone instead of 200 ton of clean stone, we have to go to 400 ton of clean stone and 200 ton of road rock. Because in the long run, it's going to be cheaper for the county because they're not paying for moisture, they're getting clean rock.
And to your point, we may do that. Once we get in and start doing roads, if we find that the amount of material we need to bring in and we put, say, 200 ton of clean stone down, we're not getting the base that we need, we might switch it. Maybe we go 300 or whatever. So it's not like it's set in stone. This is just something this is what we've done in Clinton County, put that way. And we've had success, but we're not starting at the same point as where we are here in Jackson.
But don't you agree? Because we don't have, because almost all of our roads have got the black mud coming up through it. So we don't have 3 inches, we don't even have an inch. But wouldn't you guys agree that when you're buying the road rock and you get a lot of wet rain in the springtime and you're looking up that, don't you agree that the county's probably paying more per ton on road rock than you would be on clean rock? You know, it's almost like the quarries around here have to get rid of that lime somehow. And because if we took all clean rock out of the quarries would have nothing but lime piles all the way around.
I mean,
The specs on the 8 stream for lime and road rock, correct me, Todd, if I'm wrong, is 10 to 40, right?
for regular road rock.
Yeah, it's 10 to 40 is the specs for going through the 8.
For the 8 sieve, 15 to 30.
Okay. We run low 20s.
What's that mean?
20%.
20%.
18 to 22% we shoot for. And that's some training that could be done with the truck drivers that load themselves in the quarry. A radial stack pile should be loaded from the end of the radial stack. And get a bucket here and a bucket there. That's where he's talking the fines are coming from.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you'd want to go around the pile and get all this larger stone from the outside. But, your point,
away from the segregation.
there's times when you want to haul cleaner stone and times when you don't. I mean, you need fines to get proper compaction. This time of year, if we're hauling rock this time of year, it should be best special backfill or clean stone. In the springtime, and like right now, if we're dealing with spring in January and February, we should be hauling clean stone, basically. Clean stone or special backfill. The products that have less fines, in it, put it that way.
Yeah, we got too much lime now.
On South Carolina Road last fall, from South Carolina up past Ben Myers, up to Joe Laban's, up to Bernard Road. That was rebuilt, some of it was rebuilt 2 years ago, some of it was done last fall. And anyhow, the stuff that was done last fall, it got so bad over the crest of that one hill going down towards Ben's Hollow there, the tracks in the mud, because they just redone it last fall, so I don't think any clean rock was on it. But the tracks we got videos of were about 6 to 7 inches deep. Well, then it froze. Well, I was coming over the crest of that hill, going slow, when after it froze, and I got over the crest of the hill and there was somebody coming. So I had to slow down to jump over those tracks of my car, and like one tire dropped in one of the, and cracked my oil pan. And so I gotta foot that bill, you know, and then they come along and then they dumped road rock in that. Now, wouldn't that have been a great time to dump 3-inch clean or 1-inch clean into those deep ruts, because then it would stay there, it wouldn't roll off.
Again, like I said, that when we're in winter time or spring, we should be hauling cleaner stone, limited fine stones. So I agree with you. The thing about I think with the road that they reshaped before is that, you know, the compaction they did was they drove on it with dump trucks, which is better than nothing, but it's not like what we're gonna do. We're gonna be pulling toll rollers weighted at 12 to 15 tons, and we're gonna actually compact the material, just like you would if you're rebuilding a road from scratch, basically.
But even so, I think you can pack it to no end, but if you don't have enough base rock there, the compaction don't mean a difference. You've got to have a base.
Yeah, I think what you probably need to understand is like gravel roads get a good portion of their strength from the subgrade. So the subgrade has to be kept dry. If you have a weak subgrade, like see the CBR of less than 4, you're gonna need 10 to 12 inches of rock to support a 20 kip axle load, right? So you have to have a dry subgrade to support axle loads. So in order to do that, we have to take the subgrade, which is the dirt, basically the rock sits on, and you need to shape that so water sheds from that. Not just the rock, the subgrade needs to be shaped and then compacted and sealed up. So, but I agree. Yes, you want a base stone, and then you want to layer cake that. You want a bigger stones ideally, and then you want what we call the surfacing rock, or the driving surface that you're going to blade and drive on. But you definitely need some fines, so you get that hard pack, that hard pane, you know, over the winter and stuff too, or over in the summertime too. But no, I agree. The more fines you have and the more issues you have with soft roads, you want to have bigger stones. You got to get the aggregate interlock too. You got to get the stones rubbing against each other to support the axle load if you don't have any subgrade strength. And right now, when you got the frost coming out of the road, the water wicking up, and you get rain, the subgrade gets saturated. There's zero strength. That's why you get ruts. It's not rocket science. We need to get the water out of the road, keep the subgrade dry, and then get enough rock to drive on. That's pretty simple, really. That's what we need to do.
I don't know if it's so wide, okay, what, guys, we putting a ditch down through the middle of the road, if you measure 28 feet.
We'll never find the center first, and then we'll
Any other questions for Todd on the remaking of the road, or we're gonna have a plan anyway we have in place, which we haven't had for a while?
Short term, what's your thoughts? For getting us by till this comes around to our area, let's say it that way, you know, what's your
90 days.
game plan?
90 days.
Yeah, I mean, what's your?
So the roads we're not gonna get to, it still goes back to the training for the grader operators. We're still gonna be blading and blading and rocking on the roads, and it's still gonna be do what they can to put as much crown as they can in the road. They're still gonna have to start building crown. Of these 10 miles, the other 40 miles they got, they're still gonna have to blade crown on the road. And period. We're gonna have to be putting crown on the road. I don't care if it's 2, 3%, whatever they can put in there is better than what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that your plan I think is a great plan, but we're just talking, some of us probably more short-term stuff, like just to get by with this coming summer or, you know, fall. I mean,
Next week.
yeah, next week, you
So
know,
we're gonna
instead of a
rain or
5-year
whatever,
plan,
yeah.
let's talk about a 5-day plan.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding, but I'm just saying, what, what goals do you have for that, I guess?
So in the short term,
Short-term notes, yeah.
you know, we're gonna have a rough period here through the spring, you know.
Yeah.
We still have to have real spring yet, okay? We're gonna be doing the same. Huh?
We're going on 5 now.
Yeah. We're gonna be home, so we're gonna be doing like the worst spots, trying to haul when it's clean, trying to get people passing through. and then hopefully we get a drying period, but getting back to your point is. The short-term plan is to kind of just keep plugging holes until it starts to dry out through Mother Nature, and then we can start shaping roads, but just because. A road isn't one of those 10 miles, doesn't mean the grader operators, they should, in the back of their mind, they need to be realizing that they should be trying to, create crown in the road. However they want to do that, we need to create crown in the road. We're gonna be hauling 60,000 ton of those, we're gonna have another, roughly about 110,000 ton to haul everywhere else too. So it's not like the other 40 miles in the district or 50 aren't gonna get touched. We should have been employing the same strategy of building crown in the road and all the roads.
So going back to your footage with your loads of rock. So you're gonna try to implement that on the guys that are dumping it now, just for temporary, or, like you're saying, that you only go so many feet with a load of rock?
I would say that when they're spotting, it's more like there's a bad spot and they cover the bad spot. I would say I probably won't, just because they're just probably eyeballing it where there's a bad spot. You know what I mean? If it's a big bad spot, it might take 2 or 3 loads kind of thing. But I would say no. I would just leave that at their discretion. But when we're re-rocking the road, we need to have it, dialed in basically.
And I think a lot of us have probably called in to the repair shop or somewhere along the line for a little assistance. And, sometimes we feel as though we're kind of hounding you guys. But I guess we try and help you out too, to let you know where there's a road spot, we try and be somewhat civilized. Because if there is a bad spot, sometimes maybe you guys don't know about it.
For sure.
So we try and call in, like over at Leisure Lake Turnoff, there's a spot where the water sits and it's really washboardy. And my young lad took a video of me going through there with the volume on it, and I can only go 5 miles an hour through about 200, 300 foot stretch. And I had the feeder, I got to travel 3 miles with the feeder wagon each way. And as I was going through there 5 miles an hour, the feeder wagon was going boom, boom, and the unloading tray was bouncing, and I got way bars on it. And I can't go much slower or I'll never get there. But, I talked to the insurance company today, I said, I already cracked a oil pan. I said, what happens if my way bars go out or I break an axle or something? I said, that's on us, county ain't gonna pay that. So that's why we try and call in to try and get those bad spots filled in, because we got a lot of money out there in equipment.
No, it's, I want, most of the guys, if not all the guys that work for the department, have families, relatives that drive the same roads, and they probably drive the same roads too. So it's, they all have a vested interest in trying to maintain it. I'm not saying the guys that the county has, haven't been doing, are trying to do a good job, but I think in my mind, I'm just trying to give them a little bit different direction, a different way, a different process on how we're gonna start maintaining it.
So, but I put any of it out to, like the counties, other counties do, like in the next 2 weeks, there's 4 counties, Grundy, Clark, Appaloosa, and Marion County, bid out 20,000 ton of rock. Could you bid that out for a year to some of these roads to speed this process up?
Good point. So when we get into this, if I find that we're not getting the production we need, we will. It's like Clinton County, we contract out about 50,000 ton of contract hauling.
Yeah.
So we haul
50% of the counties in the state do.
Yeah. Yeah, so
every month.
how do I say this? So when we're trying to get everybody trained up on how to do it, we're gonna be kind of slow in the process. But once we get good at what we need to do, and what's slowing us up is getting the rock placed, we will be calling people to haul.
But I ain't so sure some of the times the tonnage of rock, you could haul, these guys will come in and haul twice as much in belly dumps. And you might get a bid to buy it at the same price you guys are bidding it. You don't have to haul or put the fuel or the guys out there. I don't know.
Yeah, so what we do in Jackson County too, we buy the rock.
Right.
And we just pay the hauler to haul it. And usually that's around, it depends on how far the haul is, it's about $3 a ton. For them to haul and dump it, but we're buying the rock. They don't buy the rock and add an adder to it. We buy the rock and we pay them to haul it.
But these guys are bidding it out like 20,000 ton. Bidding the rock.
Then the hauling or the rock.
Yeah.
So they're
Rock
they
together.
Do they have their own quarries? Are they crushing the rock
I
too?
don't think the counties care, if they're getting a price to do it, I don't know what that price
Because
is.
some counties actually own their own quarries and they'll bid out a crusher to come in and crush the rock for them, but
Dubuque County bids it out, placed on the road.
yeah.
Right.
And we will, most likely, we will probably need extra haulers once we get,
Right.
but we need to get the road shaped first. I'm not gonna go out and dump new rock on the road that's got a shitty crowd.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't know what that cost your guys to get started for a year or two, because these guys ain't gonna run this over.
Yeah, so it's,
Do a couple roads, these guys come in, you know, put it out for a bid to get the crown back in there, maybe just to see what it would cost. These guys run GPS on these graders, you don't have to teach the guy to, I mean, they got GPS on these newer, you know, big outfits that bid that. And give the guys something to look at so they know what they're even, and let them still work on 2 other roads while these guys are doing a road a year or something, just an idea. I don't know what it would cost, maybe it's not feasible.
you mean like have a contractor come in and shape the
Yeah,
roads?
blade it up and then put the rock on when they're done. And speed up, get a couple roads done, just speed the process up a little bit. Like these guys are saying, it's gonna take us forever. I don't know.
Hey.
I have no idea what the cost is, okay? So I guess, fellas, here's the thing. We do have a plan now anyway, with something we never had before. So I think we implement the plan, at least try, and then we maintain it if we can. Now, I'm gonna get chewed one way or the other. I mean, if the plan don't work, so I'm gonna get chewed again. If I spend too damn much money, I'm gonna get chewed again.
That's why you're sitting in there.
I get it. And I don't have a problem with it,
And
but I'm
that's the thing
asking
with the rural.
for a little
services.
bit of patience also to let us try. I mean, we're trying. It ain't like your guys in your district are not trying, I don't think. Are you accusing them of that or blaming it off in the ditch? Are you not trusting somebody of how they test the rock?
Well, I followed a guy too one time, and I'll tell you what, he's up the ladder now. And it was close to 3:30. And I'm not gonna tell you his name, but he had the grader and road gear and doing the same thing he's talking about. And I never said anything. I can't say anything.
I can't drive around and follow them.
I know you can't, but he's not telling a lie.
Yeah, I agree.
This
I
was
mean,
several years ago.
I've seen it done and, you know, we've all seen it done.
I live like.
Our goal is, we bought off, talked to Todd, we're buying the retriever so we can grind the sides up to get the crown back. The goal is, we're buying one with a couple of compactors. And we get them up trained, everything's good to go. Next year, we're looking at maybe getting a second one, so we can do twice. The goal is to get this program up and going, and we've all bought off on it.
Yeah.
You know, we put, from what I've seen, we put almost $200,000 extra into rock this year compared to last year's budget. So the board is committed to try to get these gravel roads back. My family lives on gravel roads, everybody here drives on gravel roads. I drove Mill Creek Road last Saturday, and it was an adventure. It was dark and it was an adventure. So
I gotta ask you a question
sure.
when you're done.
Okay. We're trying. One thing, you know, we're putting almost over $200,000 extra in the rock. With that, we'll let you, the budget we're looking at, it's probably gonna be about a 30-40% tax per thousand tax increase. But that's part and parcel. We can't increase spending without, we can't print money. So that's the road, the rural services fund, the max tax levy for that is $350. We're sitting about $170. So we can go a lot more, but that's you guys. We're gonna try to work a balance. We're gonna try to get those roads better. It's gonna take 3, 4, 5 years to get through all the roads at least once. But we got a plan. And if you drive Clinton County, it seems to work.
Don't you think that'll upset people who live on a highway if their taxes have gotta go up?
I don't care. We're gonna set everybody, cause
What's new?
you know, it's all part of it. It's a balancing act and we're trying. Ned and I are learning. Like I say, the last month and a half, it's been like trying to drink from a fire hose a little bit on the information coming in. But know that this board sitting here, we're on board. And this is the plan we've come up with Todd to make it happen. So.
Thank you.
And I live there and I drive them too. And
We don't wanna accuse anybody of not caring. Everybody's caring about what they're doing. I think that just if we can get everybody on the same board of training and figuring out how to do it. And the rock and where to lay it and do all that, I think you guys be good. We're not saying that you're not putting forth the effort.
Well, we're trying, I guess, and
Yeah.
that's what we need to do is give them a little bit of credit once in a while and, well, I mean, we're working at it and we're implementing, we never had some, you know, I guess a plan in place, I wanna call it, and maybe it wasn't structured right either, maybe, so, again. We have some structure and we have a plan and hopefully we can implement it, maintain it. Move forward.
I will say, Jackson County has some very, challenging road cross sections. I mean, you got roads that are cut into a rock ledge, you got roads where the road is the lowest point in between the fences and it's, you know, would you grade and build a road that way? Hell no, that's not how you would build a road, but that's what we're stuck with, but, and I get back to the point of like, I get it, it's not ideal, but bottom line is, the road is gonna perform better if we get the water off of it. That's it, period, so. I mean, you can talk about rock and everything else, but bottom line is you gotta get the water off the road. Hell, a dirt road perform to keep it dry.
Yep, you're right.
Do you know where we're gonna start?
Yeah, so,
380.
which one?
328.
So, it's also.
Pass ahead.
The lead and the foreman, since we got an open grader spot in Macokota, we're gonna put the retriever on that machine. It's a cat machine, it'll have the same controls as 3 other ones, so we're gonna start in the Macokota area. Because, we're gonna probably have multiple guys run that machine. We're not gonna, I don't know, we'll probably have an operator hired by then, but that guy is gonna need more training than anybody else, so we're gonna pull the grader operators out of this maintenance district that Macokota is in. They're gonna come in, we're gonna do his roads, they're gonna get trained, and then the next district we're gonna go to, we'll have those operators come in and train and run the machine. And I talked to one of my operators in Clinton County that, you know, he's handy. I mean, if he said this is what you should be doing on how to operate, people should listen. So he said he would be willing to come in and just work. He doesn't say much, but when he does say something, it's usually pretty accurate. So we'll have guys that are more experienced. Actually, he lives in Jackson County. So again, I've never sat in the motor grader seat. I'm not gonna sit there and tell them how to operate the machine because I don't know. I'm guessing most people here have never sat in the seat longer than to turn the radio on or turn the key. But I do know what I want it to look like when it's done. From an engineering standpoint, I know exactly what I want it to look like when I'm done. Anyway, there's probably exception.
There's an exception.
He didn't say it.
So, question for Todd?
I think that was it. So I did answer your question.
So what's these different green
So green means go. Those are roads are getting done.
this year?
Yeah,
The goal for this year for them.
yes.
It's up there in the right hand corner.
Yep, so that's on there. So the green numbers next to that, that's the road mileage. The red number is your average daily traffic.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so we're, like I said, we picked the roads based on just traffic, more traffic, that was a priority.
Yeah,
Right?
Good meeting. Is there any more questions on the reshaping of the road and all that before we actually get to the intent of the meeting tonight to talk about the 5-year plan?
Got one question.
All right.
How come for the last 8 or 9 years, my buddy Scholes said that we couldn't have a crowd?
I can't.
Well, you
talk
know,
to
Jess,
that.
I'm sorry, but that's water under the bridge. We're not gonna talk about the fact here. We're gonna try to move forward. I don't know if it's an explanation of something I can't tell. I know,
Here, you know, cause I've been
my job was to walk down the hall and talk to the rest of the department.
Well, when I got elected, they told me there's no way they can get Main Street done. We did Main, we did Moab, we did a bunch of. So
We can move on. All right, I don't wanna break up the camaraderie here. We have a meeting yet to do, so if, with a little bit of respect, can we finish our meeting? Excuse me? With a little bit of respect here, we'll try to finish our meeting. So, any more questions for Todd on the reshaping of the roads? All right.
They finally realized what's wrong with them.
I'm glad too. And we know what was wrong with them. We just had to have a plan and somebody to implement. So we are trying. So
This is the fun part. This is actually when we get to do project work. This is an engineer. It's a hell of a lot more fun than dealing with gravel roads, I'll tell you that. So, this is your 5-year program, so it's gonna be construction projects. So anything that's considered maintenance is not gonna be on here. Maintenance would be like, any overlay of asphalt that's like 2 inches or less, seal coating, unless it's not previously seal coated, but it'd be like your bridge construction, your major road constructions. Would not include like patching. We've done a whole bunch of patching here lately. Would not include that. That's considered maintenance. So here's the, Jackson County has a unique challenge with the bridges here too. The number of posted bridges is pretty significant. So, right there, what you see there is 8 bridge projects and 2 culverts. The 2 letters are the initial abbreviated township. So like IA's Iowa, PE's Perry, OC, Otter Creek, so you kind of get a handle on what that means. And the number is just a designation that's the number. It's got the section number, and then it has information about where the bridge is in that section. That's for us. But so we are doing the designs for those now in-house. If they're over $120,000 estimated cost, we have to go out to a public letting. If they're less than that, we'll get a quote to do that work. We have gone to, with the board's permission, I guess, if you will. I'm a big, so I like having things standardized. So our typical bridge is going to be steel I-beam bridge with a concrete deck. And Michael attest to this. So I go out and I buy as many used beams as I can. I try to buy them from traders. I buy them from Oliphant Construction out of Cedar Rapids when we retired. I buy it from Scott County. I buy it from Cedar County. I got an inventory of steel I-beams. So we reuse those when we build these bridges. Those bridges are all salvaged used I-beams. What we do is the way it's designed is there's a steel channel that gets welded to the top of those beams. So when we cast the deck on top, the deck takes the compressive force. So we can actually design a bridge that has a higher load rating and use less beams. Because before you guys were building bridges with steel I-beams, which is great, and then putting a timber deck on them, which is less expensive, don't get me wrong. But the rating of those bridges was barely legal because the plank was what the limiting structure was. So the plank had the limiting live load capacity. Plus, from what I've seen, you put a concrete roof on a bridge and the beams last almost, I don't say forever, but for a heck of a long time. They got steel piling in them. That's our standard. Their bridge is 27 foot wide. That's standard. So when you see these bridges get built, really the only thing that's going to look different is the span of the bridge, because the width will be the same. The construction type should be the same. Now, when we run out of used steel I-beams, we'll have to start buying them, which is significantly more expensive. But we could also go to a precast, like quad T elements too. That's another option. But anyway, I can talk on bridges all day. It just kind of at the bottom there, you see, we got, I wish I would brought my glasses, 225. I don't like admitting I got to wear glasses anyway. 225 bridges in the county, and if you assume, with timber substructure and that kind of thing, they last 50 years. It's not rocket science. You got to replace 4.5 bridges a year to keep up. So we're a little bit behind that. We have a lot of bridges that are posted. We're doing 8 there, as you can see, and 2 culverts. So we're trying to do some catch up on there as well. So, all right. And if you guys have questions, just ask me. Otherwise, I'll keep rambling through this. Except for you. No, go ahead.
I got a question. I was up in Dubuque County.
Yeah.
And they are putting together, I think what they are, railroad cars. Did you ever consider that?
Yeah. So, the problem with those is they're cost economical.
Yeah.
If you can go too wide. But the minute you got to put 3 down to get the width you need, they're not.
How
So,
much width do we need on the county roads?
well, 2 of them won't get you 27 feet is the problem.
I see.
Because we looked at that in Clinton County too, because Brian Kiley up in Buchanan County was doing a bunch of those. Plus, what was Brian? So they used to have a whole bunch of these used rail cars. You got two big beam members that are down the middle, and they got cantilevers off of that. And you could get them pretty cheap because the law was that they had to take them out of service and get rid of them so many years, and then it changed that they could extend the service life. So then now there's not as many, flooding the market. So we did look at those, but we also looked at doing slab bridges or poured concrete culverts, that kind of thing. But with the price of concrete, doing cast in place, it's about Dave, what was it, 3 or 4 times as expensive. So it's just, when you can use used I-beams and pour a concrete deck, it's the most economical way to go. It really is. So I don't know why, if I can move that guy's picture, but if I'll touch it, it'll screw it up, but
So the bridges you're putting in now, they're 50 years, you're talking about the bridges that already been there, they're 50 years.
I would say if it's a timber substructure, timber deck, you can replace deck plank, but I would say those are probably been in service around 50 years, a little bit longer. And if
the stuff you're gonna put in, that we've been putting in now.
if we're putting it in with steel I-beams and concrete deck, they should last 60 to 70 years, if not more.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you could go out and patch the deck or fix the deck if you wanted to, or if the substructure is bad, you could cut out a section of steel pile, weld back new, so what's behind there, which you can't see, is this is the accomplishment year, so fiscal year 24, which is going to start July 1 of 2023. The road we're gonna be doing, how do I explain this? So the DOT, which we have to turn this 5-year program in, when a project gets programmed, it is the year it gets let in, okay? So that project's really gonna be let in fiscal year 24. It's not gonna be constructed in 24, it's gonna be let in 24. So that's the Y61 250th Avenue from Iowa Highway 62 to Belway Cascade Road. Now, what the project you'll see work on this year that was let, when was it? December. You'll see work on that road. That's Y61 from Lamont to the Belway Cascade Road this summer. So that's what you'll see work on this year. But technically, that's a fiscal year 23 project because it was let in December of 22. All right. 33rd Street is going to get a 2-inch overlay with scratch coat. Scratch coat is like a leveling course where you fill in the ruts and that kind of thing. Basically, you drag the pan along, fill in ruts with asphalt, and then it'll get 2 inches of asphalt on top of that. That's from Highway 64 east into the city limits. We're going to do a bunch more patching on D55 from Lamont to Highway 52, and then patching on Z34 going north out of Preston to the Coker River. So now the rest of these projects, the 5-year program obviously has 5 years worth of projects. So I just talked about fiscal year 24. That's what we call the accomplishment year. These are the next upcoming 4 years. We got 5 bridge replacement projects, and we've got a map handy. So right there in front of you, that map has the projects listed. So if you want to see where they're at, what they are, look at that map. I put that in here. So, and then the road rehab project for that year is Z34 Preston to the river. In 26, we're doing 8 more bridges. And the big road rehab project is Y31 from E17 to Crabtown. Fiscal year 27, we're doing 4 more bridges. And the road is Y31 from Crabtown to 234th Street. And then finally in fiscal year 28, we got 3 bridge projects, E17 from Andrew to 61. So that's not saying this time next year, we might say, you know what, we need to add 2 more bridges to 26 or 27. So we can still add projects if need be. Like if we go out, we do inspections on the bridge, we find, oh crap, we got a bridge that we got to accelerate up or add on the program, we can definitely do that. So,
when you say rehab a road, you can tear it up, put it back down again.
most of the time it's going to be, if it's concrete, it's going to get overlaid with asphalt. If it's asphalt, it'll get cold in place recycled and then overlaid, basically.
They did the Springbrook Road from Springbrook to inch of stuff on there that would not crack. I drove that with my motorcycle. 2 months later, and it was cracked. Every place the cement was cracked.
Where the panel joints were?
Yeah.
So they did an interlayer, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they put 7 inches or 6 inches on it.
So, it's a good point. We did a couple interlayer projects in Clinton County. I won't do one again, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So basically what it is, it's a highly emulsified, denser asphalt. It's got a high priced emulsion in the asphalt mix, and it's supposed to be dense but flexible.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to release stress at those panel joints. But come to find out, and we took a bunch of cores over the panel joints,
Yeah.
because it cracked within the very next season. It was cracking at the panel joints, and I was pissed, and I called the guy from the
Yeah.
Iowa Asphalt Paving Association, and I'm like, hey, what the hell, this didn't perform, and so they paid to have the cores taken, and what come to find out is the I don't know how much you want to get in the weed here, but the elastic recovery of the emulsion was too low, they say. But I think the bigger thing is that if you have a panel joint that's got a gap of like 3/4 of an inch, it doesn't matter what you put in there, it's gonna crack over that joint. So, long story short, if you got wide panel joints, don't bother with the interlayer. You're gonna get cracks there. Just use your regular asphalt.
Wouldn't it be better if they went over that and broke it up and then laid a layer of asphalt?
So we do that in Clinton County, what's called crack and seat.
Yep.
So you crack it and panels about 3 foot across, and then I don't know how many ton that is, like a 90-ton roller goes over it to seat it down, and then you overlay it. It will delay reflective cracks, but you're still gonna get cracks, especially if you got a gap there. Because even if you crack and seat it, it doesn't fill the gap. You know what I mean? So I talked about that. All right, so for all you people in here, I shouldn't say that want to get the road paved, this slide is about that. So basically what it comes down to is we get farm to market funds, 1.22 million, all right? That doesn't come to the local budget here. That's road use tax. It's our money, but the state keeps it like in their bank, basically. And we get about 394,000 in federal aid, surface transportation block grant money. So you take that money, we have 207 paved miles in the county, okay? And that's the money we get to spend every year on roads. In order to take that money and at the cost of $350,000 a mile, that's about what our rehab is. Roads are gonna get 45 years old before we can get to them. Okay, that's just the existing paved mile system. That's not adding any additional new paved miles. So it's kind of a bucket of water in the face, because I'm not saying, hey, I love paving roads. Don't get me wrong. All it takes is money. Or didn't look up. But bottom line is, if we take, say, FM money or federal money and don't use it rehabbing our existing paved road system, and we take $1 million or $2 or $1 million or $2 million in money and pave a new road, now those roads that are 45 years old now go to 47, 48 years old before we get to them. So again, I mean, I'm an engineer. I like doing projects. I like paving stuff. You give me the money, I'll pave it. But I'm gonna say that the money we're getting right now in road use tax isn't gonna get anything additionally paved. So
I thought that's why we got that 1% or 10%. What was it?
that's property tax related.
Road tax on gas.
That's so that's a good point. So like for secondary roads, about 85-90% of our budget comes from road use tax. Only about 10 to 15% comes from property tax. So when people talk about paying their property tax, it's not coming necessarily to secondary roads. It goes to schools, it goes to the sheriff's department, that kind of thing. So about 7% of what you pay in property tax. So if you pay, $1,000 or whatever, $10,000 in property tax, 7% of that comes to the roads.
Maybe we could chase something off that, some other work. In that, what everybody's getting out of there, put a little more to the
That's up to the board. They are transferring So the past 3 years, the property tax transfer to the road department's been the same, but now this year they're looking at spending like. Supervisor Schwenker said, an additional $200,000, that's property tax. So that money that we're gonna use for the extra rock, that is property tax. So when a certain part of your tax goes up, I guess you can take a little bit of comfort in the fact that 200,000 of that pot of taxes is coming in its rock, so.
Got one more question.
You are full of questions.
Well, I've been at this for about 10 years, trying to get something done. But I wanna ask you, do they have any emergency money?
I'm not sure. I guess I don't.
Does anybody know?
Was emergency money?
Yeah, like say the bridge goes down or,
Like FEMA?
no, like a fund.
So,
I
I
heard-
mean, I think what Jeff's talking about, well, like a carryover balance, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got
So
that.
well, go ahead, Todd. When Todd got here, there was
So we have, we're required to have, I call it a contingency fund, but it's basically what we call a carryover balance. So that's very unique. In most other county departments, if you don't spend it, it rolls back to the general fund. For us, if we don't spend, because the secondary road fund is constitutionally protected. So once it hits the secondary road fund, it stays in there until it gets spent on roads. So if we don't spend it, it goes back into our carryover balance, and we're required to have a balance because if we get a bad winter, we get bad flooding, a bridge goes out, you name it, we need to have, well, actually, we need cash to cash flow it. So we run into this in Clinton County, we start doing a bunch of contract rock hauling and all that. We might get a bill from Wendling for $600,000 and we need to, pay them. So you gotta have a little working cash balance, and that's one of the other reasons for it as well, but. So the balance was around 4 million, a little over 4 million. So we spent that down, meaning we're overspending our revenue. So say we got 8 million in revenue, we're budgeting to spend 9 million. And 4.5 million is too much carryover. It should be, in my mind, around, 1.75, something like that. Around 20% of your annual expected expense is what you should have in reserve. That's kind of my rule of thumb. So we're trying to get that spent down this current year, and we budgeted to overspend for next year as well. That's one of the reasons why we're doing 8 bridges. So a lot of that overspending or additional spending is going toward bridges. So
Todd, you got a list of roads here, or is there any rhyme or reason to how you got them listed there?
no,
Okay.
it's just road miles.
Okay.
Like the list is there is what I would call local roads that would be very difficult to use farm to market funds on because they don't meet the minimum standards. So when we do those roads, those are the roads we would need local funds to do. Because if we tried to do, like say we had to have a letting through the DOT to use farm to market funds, we would have to apply for significant design exceptions, and we may or may not get because it doesn't have enough like forest slope, it doesn't have enough shoulder. So based on ADT, you have to meet certain standards for the road before you can spend that kind of money. So before you can use FM funds, you have to meet the FM standard basically.
So even though they're on this list, doesn't mean they're gonna get done, is what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay.
Todd, I had a question or a couple questions that they posed to me was, so you're doing 6 bridges or you're going to do 8 bridges next year, whatever it may be. They asked if it was feasible or more wise to take 2 of them bridges out, leave them the way they are for a couple of years and use that funds to reshape more gravel roads.
Well, we could, when I first got here.
yeah.
Well, even back when I was here, before you hired Dave, I was helped out for a while. You had you have a significant bridge issue with the number of posted
Right.
bridges. So seems like that was a bigger concern here lately. Gravel roads is kind of got head and shoulders ahead of that. So, yes, you could do that. I just need to change that.
Well, and I guess again, we go to a 5-year road plan and I don't like second guessing my engineer when he's got a plan, but the point is maybe we rethink it and say, right now we basically have almost an emergency.
Yep.
I mean, you got a disaster almost. yes.
Well,
Here's another thing though, too. We got a lot of bridges out there with weight limits. And
And you
I
guys are-
don't need a show of hands or anything, but there's probably been people that's gone across the bridge that was
Push.
definitely over the weight limit or right at the weight limit.
I would
So-
say,
We gotta watch that. That's a fine line too, you know?
I would be cautious to try and say, yeah, we're gonna get in here, we're gonna do 30 miles in every district. I don't think, well, one, I don't think that's feasible, even if you hired a contractor. You know, it. You got to, I think you gotta be a little bit careful on how much you try and take off here in the first bite, but we could definitely, you know, try and do like, say, 15 miles and take one bridge off or
So
something like
let's
that.
take a shot at it here first, you know, balance our way, balance us, you know, our system out and try to better ourselves anyway. So we do have a plan. Let's try to implement it and then we'll.
Well, and there's more than one way to skin this cat of the roads too. I thought about, well, maybe we task 3 or 4 guys, that's our road reshaping crew. We train that set of guys, they go out, shape all the roads, and you contract every ton of rock that gets hauled. So then they could bust around the counter pretty quick. But you still have to have guys running rollers, and maybe you need to put another 3 or 4 guys in seats pulling rollers, but you could train a crew, a road reshaping crew, and that's all they do all summer long. And you could have a contractor haul the rock in behind them, and you probably could get more production that way. But that all costs extra money.
I mean, you know, last year we had a pretty good year. I mean, the spring was almost a perfect spring when it come out, you know, but. And the roads were pretty good this summer, to be honest. They were pretty good and it's been a disaster since January, yeah.
The only thing I see with, if just trying to, I don't know the price, but a contract out, them guys, when the sun shines, they work 12 and 14-hour days. Our guys, time they get there and their lunch, they maybe get 7 hours a day in. And then if it rains for 2 days, them guys are gone home, they come back. I mean, our guys are still, they ain't gonna go out there in the rain either. The hours per week, if it's a rainy week, they might not get nothing done on the road where this other outfit might come in on Friday, work Saturday, Sunday, you don't know. I'm just, they get more hours in a week than our county guys do.
But
Sunshine.
on the flip side of that, you're paying for that too.
Right.
So you have to weigh production versus cost, because you definitely will get more production. It's just, it's gonna cost more.
Well, quicker maybe, I know it costs more, right?
Yeah, but it will be, you'll get more, I agree, you'll get more miles done. It's just, you just have to weigh, if you wanna, you know, the cost of that. But again, you have to be careful. There's certain conditions where you wouldn't be doing the shaping. And, I don't know, I could talk to, you know, some contractors, maybe like Don, you think maybe.
Well, I don't know who else is these, you know, if DeLong's do out of Washington, they do more of that stuff, I think, and they got their own trucks or,
Yeah,
you know.
we could reach out to them, but I, you know, those guys that are dirt movers, usually they're moving dirt.
I see a bit Washington stuff a lot, reshaping the roads and,
I can talk to, I know Jacob Torres, the county engineer in Washington pretty well. I'll see how he does it.
set some goals. This much done by the 1st of July, and if we're not reaching it, then maybe hire some out.
Yeah.
Look into it.
Yeah, I
Like I
mean,
said,
we got a lot of options as far as that goes. I mean, we can think it over and have input. I mean,
we do 180 miles a year in Clay County. So we have 12 motor grader districts, and we try and do 15 to 18 miles each district. So it's that same 4-year cycle. The plan is to get every road touched every 4 years. That's the plan.
And you're not behind 4 years like we are.
that's fine.
It's more important.
But these are all good points, but I feel I'm just a little hesitant because I kind of want to get into this and get our feet wet and decide, hey, this is working, or hey, it's not. We need to go down a different road.
Well, and we're still gonna have the
But-
issue if
but
we're not
not
training our own
always-
guys.
Did you say before that you guys in Clinton County are only doing 12 to 15 miles for road graders? Or what'd you just say there about?
12 districts.
We got 12 motor grader districts, and we try to reshape 15 to 18 miles
I
each
said they
district.
were covering 18 or 20.
Oh, no.
I was just wondering if our grader guys are getting stretched too far. I see some of these numbers are 62 miles and I
Ours
just
is,
didn't know if that's too much.
no, I'd say that's actually
They're pretty-
kind of on the lower end.
Yeah.
Our guys are doing 65 to 68.
I just didn't-
But again, some of that is terrain. You guys is terrain.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's.
What do we average out of it, 4.5 miles an hour, or where do they grade that?
It depends on skill level, but yeah, they're gonna be at anywhere from 3.5 to probably 5.5 miles an hour. That's when they're cutting. when they're feathering, they could go a little faster than that, but. All right. There's not 33 slides in this one. No, oh, that whoops. Sticky fingers. Okay, this is so we have like a 10-year road replacement schedule, and this actually has like every road on it. But this is how we budget, plan, and you can see down there, based on, the borrowing ahead, when I say borrowing ahead, the farm to market account will let us borrow ahead 5 years into the account. So if we say we had $1 million of annual allocation, they'll let us borrow 5 million into the hole, because all 99 counties farm to market funds sit in one fund, and they pull out of there to pay different counties and different projects. So it's not like every county is using their money every year. So that's why they let us borrow ahead. So, as you can see down there, that's 40 years average for pavement age at reconstruction. So if it's a PCC concrete road, that's not too bad. If it's an asphalt road, that's a rough road to drive on at 43 years old.
So just for sake of talking here, the road from Andrew to Lamont is the oldest one we have in the county, correct? At 52 years, Mike?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was paved in 72.
Yeah, that's 250th. That's the one that gets overlaid from Cottonville to Lamont this year, and then overlaid next year from Cottonville.
Yeah. So that's an average. So obviously you're gonna have like what Mike was saying, you're gonna have PCC or concrete roads that are gonna be over that average age at reconstruction. Then you're gonna have asphalt roads, they're gonna be under that, but that's the average age of pavements at rehab. So I didn't mention this too, but I feel like I want to mention it going back.
Todd, is this our average or is that an average? This is our average.
That's Jackson County's average.
Okay, so is that normal? Is that high?
I'd say it's a little high, yeah.
Yeah, usually they say 30.
I think in Clinton County, our average age is at 36 or 7.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I just kind of, I tried to do comparisons just to see, but so Jackson County has 207 miles of paved roads, and you have 840 total miles. So that's 24.6% of your total miles are paved roads, okay? Just as a comparison, in Clinton County, we have 229 miles of paved road and 1,005 miles total. So Clinton County has 22.7% paved miles. So our Clinton County actually has a smaller percentage of paved mile system than Jackson County. So it's not like your paved road system isn't robust. I mean, you have a higher percentage of paved road miles in Jackson County than we do in Clinton County.
Is there a state average?
Probably. Do I know that? No.
So you're saying we got about 633 miles of gravel? Or how many miles of gravel?
620 something.
Yeah, something like that. So it's not just gravel. There's also dirt miles, in there too.
Level
Well,
seats.
that's obvious. That's why a lot of people are here. So.
Yeah. Well. All right, so this is the spreadsheet we use to plan and track the bridge replacement projects we have. You can see kind of in the middle there, it's got dates down to 2029. So it actually kind of makes me feel good looking at this. So if we get down through 2029 and those projects all get done, every bridge that's posted, that's not on a dead end road or level B road or whatever, and that's not a contract labor bridge will be fixed. So these will be day labor jobs. So when I say contract labor, so like the river bridges and all that, where we have to go out to a DOT and have a letting, it doesn't include those big structures, but the smaller structures we're gonna do and design like in-house and let locally and pay for here, like the 8 bridges I talked about, or that in 2029, we will have that list of bridges done. And the only thing that's gonna be left is the bridges that are on dead end roads or level C and B roads. So that's in my mind, a pretty significant,
Improvement.
yeah, well, it's gonna be a nice thing to have behind us, put it that way.
I mean, the thing is, you have to understand that we're very fortunate to have the terrain we have with the beautiful bluffs and the rivers. but it comes at a price, okay? I mean, you got the Macocata River where we got 4 or 5 or 6 of them at 400, 600 feet long. They're pricey.
Yeah, so, we applied for, there's other programs we can apply to get additional funding. The DOT, we have federal aid, it's called BRHBP money, Highway Bridge Program money. That's federal aid. That's what we use for the big bridges, like the river bridges and that kind of thing. They'll let us borrow ahead 4.5 years into that. And that one we are, when we get into the other Monmouth Bridge, I think is that the one? I gotta get the big sheet out that I can read. So, no, it's the Moorhead Bridge, I think, 74th Street. We applied for funding through the county bridge program. There's a priority point, so the bridges get ranked based on, ADT. There's a bunch of different factors, the detour mileage, that kind of thing. It was in the top, I think the top 5 for points, I think. So we're hoping we're gonna get, I think that goes up to $2.5 million or $2 million. If we don't get that money, that Moorhead Bridge will have to slide because we will be borrowed past that 4.5 years. But the idea there is we're gonna keep plugging away at these larger, bigger structures. And we applied for BIT money. That's, you guys have heard of the new bipartisan infrastructure law, or IIJA. There's BIT, it's a competitive grant program for bridges. We applied for a bridge in that program as well. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't think we have enough, what do they call that? Inequity here to really score very well. But anyway, we applied. You'll never get anything if you don't ask, basically.
Are those a matter of writing grants to get those? Or is it just?
So we actually applied through like a group of counties through the state of Iowa. So our application, it's not like it's a Jackson County app, it's a cluster of counties app kind of thing, so. What's this one? Can't really see it. Oh, that's the borrow head that I just talked about. You can see there, it's probably hard to see, but in the red there, that's the years of borrow ahead. The county bridge program candidate, $2 million. If we don't, with that money, we're at 4.2 years. If we don't get that bridge will have to bounce down the list. And then you can see the next bridge. We don't have a year there, a fiscal year, because if we programmed it right away, we'd be at 7.58 years of borrow. The DOT would say you cannot do that. So those river bridges, like Mike was saying, it's, you know, it's rain, but it's also pretty expensive to cross it. But so this is to do with the road improvement requests for paving. I talked about, you know, the money we have for paving, you know, barely covers rehabbing the paved road system you already have. So if we are going to go ahead and pave gravel miles, it's going to have to come from local funds. The last time we paved new roads in Clinton County, the board did a bond, so they bonded for it. It was an urban renewal bond. It was like $6.4 billion. We did like, I don't know what it was, like 8 or 10 miles of new road paving, gravel roads that got paved. That's the last time we did it. And it was through like a bond like that to do it. So we had to come up with a plan of roads we were going to pave based on ADT, had public hearings, blah, blah, blah. And then they created an urban renewal plan is what it was. And once that was approved, then they went out and bonded and we did projects. So it's a lot of hoops to jump through, but I don't know how you're going to come up with the money you need to pave a road without doing something like that. So we came up with this policy. I talked to the board. We drafted this policy to score petitions for paving. Along with that, it scores those for aggregate road stabilization. And we do quite a bit of this in Clinton County. We've probably done 30+ miles. So we get petitions for paving in Clinton County as well. So we don't have the money really to do it here recently. So I researched and figured out, well, we could provide a higher level service and still be a gravel road. So what that is we either do a mechanical stabilization of it or a chemical stabilization. So mechanical stabilization would be like you build the road up with mechanical stone. Everybody know what that is. It's like big rock. Big as your fist, a little bit bigger. You build that up 6 to 8 inches, okay? Build a road base and you put 4 to 5 inches of choke stone on that. And then we dust control it. The county pays for it, okay? And we dust control it every year. So we don't touch those roads. So in the spring, we'll go out and we'll shape the road. If it's getting a little thin for rock, we'll add some rock, but typically we don't do that very often. We shape it, we compact it, we roll it, and then like whoever, River Valley or Benson Stevens, whoever comes in and we dust control it. And we don't touch that road again until the fall. And you want to talk about a solid road, I don't care what it's doing everywhere else, spring, thaw, whatever, that road is solid. Mechanical stabilization, we use a couple different chemicals. We use a chemical salt, calcium chloride. We also use a product called Base One. That's like where you add roughly about 4 inches of rock. If you got an inch or two on the road still, you bring in a road hog, it's just a big reclaimer, mixes all the rock together, mixes in the chemical. You lay that back down, you compact it. It sets up, it gets hard. Then you dust control it. Same thing. You'll prep that road in the spring, you'll touch it up, make sure you got good crown and cross section. Compact it, and we don't touch that again till the fall. You don't do maintenance blading on it because you don't have to. And there's minimal dust. So it's a way to get a higher level of service without the cost of paving. It's still a gravel road. It's gonna look like a gravel road, but it's gonna drive a lot better than a normal gravel road. The mechanical stabilization runs about $95,000 to $100,000 a mile. That includes the dust control, and the chemicals about $45,000 to $50,000.
That's the money you're gonna save not touching it for the whole year.
Yeah, financially, it actually, you could make an argument that, depending on your rock costs and what your hauling costs are and your blading costs, it may pencil out that it could save money over time, but it all depends on what your operation, your O&M costs on a road are here now, so.
Is that what they call seal coats, Slaughter County?
No. Seal coat is a bituminous surface, so you're spraying oil and you put chips down and that's different.
Okay.
But once you macadam a road and you wanted to seal coat it, you could, but that is not part of that $95,000 to $100,000. That's an additional cost. Actually, what was that? We looked at that. We got a request for doing it on Airport Road. So macadam and seal coat runs about $300,000 a mile. And that's variable depending on the width of the road you're gonna do. Like you're gonna do 35-foot road versus 24-foot road, obviously that'll change.
What's asphalt per mile then?
So a 7-inch thick asphalt road was $425,000 per mile. Now, bear in mind, if you gotta do drainage structure work, culvert work, all that stuff, that's not figured in. So, I mean, if we were gonna do a road like this, I would probably go in and tile it ahead of time. So you put some under drain in. So that's not part of it either, but. So this is a matrix that Jaden put together. The DOT, if you're gonna pave a road, you're supposed to have 50 paving points. If not, then you have to have a public hearing and say why you're gonna pave it, even though it doesn't meet the minimum paving points. And then you should have an explanation like, well, they're gonna build a distribution facility or some place is gonna generate a bunch of traffic, so that's where we're gonna do it ahead of time, basically, that kind of thing. So this is just when we get, the board hasn't approved this yet, but they're supposed to be reviewing it. Hopefully they're doing that at night when they have nothing else to do. But this would be like, we get a petition, I think the last 4 we put up there, it just scores them, and there's the functional classification of the road being requested. So is it a farm to market route? Is it a minor arterial or whatever collector? The ADT, obviously, the amount of traffic on it, the closest paved parallel route. So if if there's another parallel road, a mile away, you don't get any points. If it's over 5 miles away, it scores higher, kind of thing. And then the percent trucks, most of our county roads are going to be in that 9% range. If you're going to claim you got 15% trucks, then we would have to go out and do a traffic count just to verify what you have for traffic there. And then the last one there's the blanks there, like if people want to pay a certain percentage, you get points for that. And then the roadway geometry, that's kind of the safety aspect of it. So if you proposing to pave a road that's got, 3 curves on it that have curb advisory speeds of 20 miles an hour or less, that's not gonna score very well. You know what I mean? So that's what that criteria is for. Get down to the end here. So I talk faster than I flip sheets here. All right. So this is just a expense allocation breakdown. I don't know. I just threw in this, maybe be interested, maybe you wouldn't. So the big green piece, that's what we spend on bridges.
Materials.
That's materials.
I'm sorry, yeah. Materials, so that would be rock. That would be doing maintenance work like crack sealing, that kind of thing.
Hatching.
Yeah, labor expense, that's in blue there. That's employees. Equipment and fuel, that's pretty self-explanatory. Buying equipment, maintaining equipment, that kind of thing. And then the bridges piece that is I don't know what you call that, yellow. Purple, I don't know, but that's what we spend on bridges. What's that? What color is it?
No.
Oh, all right, so there's our revenue out, where we get our revenue from. The big piece there, that's pure road use tax that comes to us. The little green sliver, that's federal aid, road use tax. The bright red, that's bridge replacement, federal aid. The orange, that's farm to market road use tax. And then the gray, I think it's gray, that's local option sales. We get that. And then that property tax, that's, like I said, it was about, what did I say, 10 to 15%. It's 13 up there. This is from last year, so it varies a little bit, just depends. And then I think I covered all those, right? Oh, miscellaneous, that'd be like we get reimbursed from like doing work for a small city or permits, utility permits, and that's the kind of stuff. That'd be your miscellaneous income. So all right, that's it.
Questions for Todd or us? Now's the time. Put her away.
So how do we get our road on this list in the 5-year plan to be paved? I live on 308. It was the one up there.
There's already been a petition for that, right? 308.
I would say yes, I guess we considered it.
A couple years ago, I think.
Yeah.
But there's been new houses put in. There's like 20 houses in that first half mile.
Yeah.
So does that matter? I mean, the tax base is there.
Yeah, the tax base, in my opinion, wouldn't play into the priority points. It would be, if the reason why we have this policy is so we can take the matrix, score it, and then if you really want to put money into paving, you would take the one that has the highest score, and that's what you'd start with. This is a board question. If we put it on the 5-year program, that doesn't mean it's going to get done. It still has to get funded, right? So if the board wants to pave it, we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it. I don't think anybody wants to take it out of the rock budget. You can't take it out of the bridge budget. So it's just a matter of, like, again, I love paving roads. I mean, that's what I went to school for, right? I'm a civil engineer. I didn't go to school to deal with,
Gravel.
So you give me money, I'll pave every road we have, that's for me, that's the cool stuff. Doing bridges, that's why I do this. But again, that's up to the board. I think they need to look at whether they want to try and find money to do that, or are they going to try and do some intermediate level service like stabilization? I think that's the bigger question is, are you going to attack petitions with the mindset of we're going to find a way to fund them to pay them, or we're going to find a way to fund them to stabilize them? It's just a matter of how many road miles do you want to add to your paved road system and how you can pay for it.
So maybe touch a little bit. I know there was a high bridge petition come in one time and we talked, and they come to our board meeting. And we talked about a cost share also. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so in the matrix, I can go back to
Do a hypothetical with like 0.68. What would that be?
was that
Do a hypothetical with 0.68.
0.68?
Yeah, the last column on the right.
They can move that.
That's 308. What we're saying.
But if it's 0.68 of a mile, it needs to be done. So these are real examples.
Is that 328?
So you're talking 3/4 of a mile basically, and if you're talking, what's your prices were before, Todd, for macadam in place or?
It's 300,000 for macadam on seal coat and 425 for 7 inches of asphalt. Yeah, I don't know how to move that guy's laptop.
That's all right. We figured it out.
We got it.
Yeah.
328 High Bridge Road, and what's that first 13?
38, that's a hospital
13th
road,
is the
right?
first one. So
That's hospital road?
No,
Yeah.
Hospital road is hospital drive, but on past that.
yeah. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't wanna hear it.
no, I guess I didn't.
You were talking about a shared.
Oh, shared
Yeah.
costs. So
What I care about.
even if it's like, say you're gonna pay for 50% of it, so it's 300,000 a mile, and say you were gonna do a mile, I forget what 308 was gonna be.
This one.
3/4 of a mile, basically.
3/4.
Does
Let's
that
just
catch
round it up.
does that catch past the big culvert?
It's by Kevin Weber's driveway across.
Probably.
It would be
yeah,
that
Kevin
far?
Weber's. It's Weber's.
Yeah, we go past Perrins and then the two that are up in the holler.
Yeah.
That's a stop
And
sign.
yeah, would it be that far? Yeah, maybe.
It seems like a lot.
It does. It don't seem like, it seems, Kevin's driveway seems further than 3/4 of a mile.
I don't think it is.
Look after that turn.
Yeah, it's pretty close, cause you got the, I bet it's a half. I bet it's
So
3/4.
let's say you're gonna pay for half of it, let's just use round numbers
Yeah.
of $300,000, so 150,000. It would just be a matter of the board just has to say, yeah, we agree to do this, we're gonna fund the 150,000.
So this had come up like 4, 5, 6 years ago. I don't remember what it was, and of course, our previous engineer wasn't in favor of any of that. So,
We know it.
I guess,
It's like Todd though.
you know, I mean, it's something that, I'm saying it's something we definitely
Now,
need
you
to
know, we
consider,
time.
because I know the area and I know what, you know. I guess, does it make sense? What's the road count there? It's always very rough right there too.
280.
Well, that's because you drive up and down it every 3 minutes.
I would say, as a county engineer, I would say you have several gravel roads that would warrant some kind of improvement, whether it's stabilization or paving. It's just because of the ADT they're getting. You have gravel roads that have ADT that, you know, very close to some of your paved roads. Goes back to you guys never had policy before, I would say, and I'll talk about intersection lights. It's the same kind of thing. We created a policy for that because we were getting requests for destination lights. So you got paved roads, you put a light up, right? So the board is, we're gonna do all the lights in the county now at the paved road intersections that don't have them. The problem is when we were looking back at when Mike was putting that together, we had intersections where it was 60 vehicles a day coming to a light. Well, every other paved road intersection we have has more than 60 vehicles a day. So how do you set a threshold that's not, you know, 6, because you've already set a precedent, you're gonna do that. So, you know, every paved road intersection that doesn't have a light is gonna get a light. We're gonna be applying, James gonna be applying for grant money for 4 of them that are gonna have the more expensive breakaway poles because we can't get the pole far enough away from the clear zone. But everyone else will just have a regular wood pole with the LED. So that's gonna be coming next year as well, so. But I guess, find the money, we'll pay her.
Yeah, I mean, I guess our issue is, and you can see our point of it is that, like you said, we gotta maintain the paved roads that we have. You know, if we got them 53, 54 years old and we did $800,000 worth of patching on that road like 2 years ago, if we don't do something with it, we'll be patching it again. You know, them roads deteriorate from the bottom up, basically. There's moisture on them, and that, if you core them out and patch them, you'll see how thick that concrete really is, you know. And it was probably 6 inches to begin with, if I'm guessing.
And that's they're 6, because Mike and I were talking about, you know, like, way to save money is we did this one in Clinton County, we came in and diamond grind the surface, and it does a great job. But you're taking off anywhere from, you know, 1/8 to 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. And if you're only got a 6-inch road to begin with, you don't wanna be taking a 1/2 inch off of it, so, but, so you don't really have an option for that, so the only other option is to stack asphalt on it, so.
So how does the cost share work then, Mike? Is it something like a 10-year assessment to the property?
I think you can set it up any way you like, if I remember right, on a 20-year or something like that, I can't remember how that works, is it right on the tax assessment, is that correct? You remember we talked about that, Mike, or Todd, you have any?
You're outside of my purview there.
Okay.
I don't know.
I have to get more information on Terry.
Like a 20-year plan.
Yeah, I think when Mike was in here that time, yeah, I think we had something figured out, but I'd have to get back, we'd have to get back to you, Terry.
So then, like, if you pay 100% of it, then I won't be here. I'll just pass the buck to the 20 years down the road when you gotta rehab that road, I won't be here. It'll be the next guy's problem though. Jaden?
You know, so there is possibilities for something like that, you know, and you have a good. If it's 3/4 of a mile. And you've got that many landowners up between the two subdivisions, both sides of the road, you know. It might be something we can talk about, yeah.
So how do we talk about that?
Well, we will.
Okay.
But not today.
We've had in the new.
I think my recommendation would be is
Yeah.
talk to your people along the road that you wanna improve and see what dollar amount. Just say use 300,000, just say, hey, we needed, how much of that 300,000 can we, in our group of houses or whatever, agree to each person pays their share or whatever, and once you have that kind of tentative commitment, then I would come back, and then that kind of gives them an idea of how much money they're gonna have to float, or the county will have to float to make it happen, so.
I think
We'll
you
take
have.
donations and it goes fund me.
I think you have to guess the number and say, you know, what is it cost us every year? That costs us $200, $300, $400, whatever it may be.
And what we've done in the past, just for you guys, because like say we're gonna seal coat it or we're gonna macadam it, we don't do 7 inches of asphalt on grade. That's one of the prices there. I would prefer to build a base up with stone first and then put like a 3-inch asphalt driving surface. But if you can't raise the road profile that much, then you need to just put like fold up asphalt. But if you can raise the road profile and get the driving surface out of, you know, give it better drainage, get it built up, that's probably a better way to do it. And you can kind of split that, so you can macadam it first, okay? Give it a season, the freeze thaw, settle, whatever, then you can come in and shape that up, and then you can seal coat it that next year. Then come back and put your 3 inches on it, you know, a year later. So basically that would be like a 3-year process. So you could maybe fund it where you pay part of the rock 1 year, you pay for part of the seal coat 1 year, then you pay the rest when you pave it in the 3rd year kind of thing.
Again, like Todd mentioned before, don't forget this though, because that road where that big culvert is, I want to say it's a 8-foot culvert, 10-foot culvert, Mike. And that's an old one. If I remember right, when they come in to petition last time, it's an old one. So that figured before they did anything, they would replace that culvert, which is a pricey one also.
Got a question. 3 inches of handle is somewhere that corner.
Yep. And when you got 15 inches of rock, it sure will.
Okay, just curious, because I know there's some.
Well, I sure appreciate everybody coming here tonight.
Freeway Street. A year or two ago, maybe it's 3 years ago, somebody came up and they said they were gonna pave that through the American or the River Road Foundation, American River Road Foundation or something like that. And Dale Frank even, they stopped him and said, here's how we're gonna widen it. We're gonna need to take your barn. I mean, they said they were gonna do that. It was through that River Road Foundation for historical monuments, and they were gonna pave it to that Rich Chapel. And they stopped and told him, here's what we're gonna need to take. And I talked to Miller.
Raj?
Raj, he said, I never heard about that. I said, I don't know, but Dale was right, because Dale was concerned, they said they're gonna have to take the barn down. They said, we have money allocated for this, and this is one of the roads that we plan on paving to this.
Put them on our agenda, we haven't come in here to work on it.
I heard it too.
I guess I've never heard of
I've
it.
never
That's
heard of it.
It's not a legitimate thing, but I've never heard.
Yeah, we're excited for Dale Sprinkle that down, they wanted to take the barn. I had 4 guys tell me, but Dale himself told me, there's a guy.
So Dale must have some kind of.
Yeah, I don't know, but I heard.
So did he want money up front?
Yeah, exactly.
Just needed the barn. Did he want a donation up front?
Well, if you guys never heard about it, I would imagine.
I've never heard about it.
Probably, both.
Is there any credit for past donations? Because from my mortgage, deed, I can tell that the state came through in like the 40s and 50s, 60s
Make sure you sign up, guys.
and condemned land because my road is a state highway, 328 was a state highway.
113, buddy.
Yep, 113.
It was brought to date.
They gave it to the county.
It was brought to date in
They're supposed to give the
1971.
county with money, I wonder if they were.
There is 100 feet of right away, all the way through there.
Now, 113, I've heard that.
Two box culverts
It
in
never
excellent
really-
shape.
It didn't like connect to the.
What is that, 3.2 miles?
Yeah, I can't remember where it is.
To the north, it's, yeah.
It'll show on your paper.
There's a lot of traffic on there. A lot of corners.
Well, it should show on this paper what the traffic count is.
But I mean, that's the only state highway. It went with a lot of Iowa to Preston. It's the only piece that 113, the state highway that's never been done. And it's been graded up since 1971. And we're paving roads that were graded up in the 80s and the 90s, and we're paving. That ain't right.
We haven't paid any since I've been here.
Like a fact, but
That was all done before.
Hey, Todd, is there another reason you know, that road show
It
comes
was all done and
through
left
Lee Street.
for me.
Don't turn around.
It was all done and left by the state.
Mike,
They won't go away, snow especially.
and you know.
They won't go way up to
The
the
5-year.
level B. They'll just stop,
And they had.
past Kent Butler's lane, sometimes Marty Primus lane. Go back home. They don't go.
The only thing I can see.
I don't understand why it's paid yet. I don't.
Yeah.
There's house all the way to the.
All right.
I'll talk about that, but no, they should be, one time we would say you can even buy it, like, when it's unplowed, and it goes back to like farm driveways.
Yeah, okay, so, is there any questions for Todd yet again? I got a curfew.
You going to Bills?
Seriously, now, if we got questions for Todd, now's the time. If not, we will thank you guys. Zach,
Thank you very much.
thank you for signed up, guys. Michael.
Might wanna wait until they have.
If not,
Take a motion to close the public hearing.
What's the?
I'll second that.
a motion